Hi, Maria. Good. How you doing? Okay. Call the meeting to order. Roll call. Ben. Here. Ty. Here. Sherry.
Here.
Vernon. Here. Show all fours here. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone, for being here this evening, including those who are joining us online. As we gather to celebrate the swearing-in ceremony for three elected officials, the three elected officials being sworn in tonight are Council President Ben Sims, Council Member Vernon J. Fields, and Council Member-elect Vicki McEnroe. Our City Administrator will begin the ceremony now. Leslie, please take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Thank you to the public and everybody who is in attendance, both in person and online. Tonight's oath of office ceremony will be administered by our City Clerk, Kathy Wren. So Kathy, if you want to head on up, and Council President Sims, I invite you and your wife Jennifer to meet Kathy for your swearing in.
As the Basehor City Clerk, it is my honor to administer the oaths of office for tonight's ceremony. With each elected official being sworn in tonight, we will read the oath of office, pin the elected official, and then officially announce them with their title. Please hold your applause until after the announcement is made. Council President Ben Sims, please raise your right hand. Please respond with "I do" at the conclusion of the oath after it has been read aloud. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Kansas, and faithfully discharge the duties as member of Basehor City Council, so help me God. Council President Ben Sims will now be pinned by his wife, Jennifer. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present to the community of Basehor, Council President Ben Sims. At this time, Council President Ben Sims, we invite you back to your seat on the dais to introduce any family members you'd like to recognize and also say a few words to the members of our community.
We wanted a picture.
Yes. Yep. We're gonna do it now. Yeah.
I did not have a speech prepared. I apologize. I guess I didn't know I needed to say anything, but I moved in the community about 10 years ago when my youngest here, Elise, was 8 months old or so. And since then, I think I had about a year or so before I started volunteering my time into the Planning Commission, and then since came on to City Council. I loved every minute of it. There's nothing better than serving our community. And, I'll do my best for the next 4 years with your interest at heart to do everything I can for the city of Basehor. So thank you so much.
Congratulations, Council President Sims, and thank you for your service to our community as well. We look forward to working with you for the next 4 years. At this time, we would invite Councilmember Vernon J. Fields down and invite his wife Kathy to join him.
Councilmember Vernon J. Fields, please raise your right hand. Please respond with "I do" at the conclusion of the oath after it has been read aloud. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Kansas and faithfully discharge the duties as member of Basehor City Council, so help me God. Councilmember Vernon J. Fields will now be pinned by his wife Kathy. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present to the community of Basehor, Councilmember Vernon J. Fields. At this time, Councilmember Fields, we invite you back to your seat, to the dais, to introduce any family members you'd like to recognize and also say a few words to the members of our community.
Well, it's been almost 12 years as a city council member. I know that I said before that, that I will go ahead and do the things I needed to do for Basehor. I think that I've demonstrated that, quite well. But I also know this is my last city council election. So I'm going on record. I'm not trying to get 20 years as a city council member. Okay. This will put me right at 15, almost 16 years. So with that, we know this chapter is going to close, but I do know that I have to stay focused and continue to serve the people of Basehor. But I'm also a praying man, folks that don't know that. So I asked my pastor,
if you pray, you can join me now. As Vernon embarks on another term of service on the Basehor City Council, we seek your blessings upon him. Grant him wisdom, discernment, and compassion as he undertakes the responsibilities of this renewed commitment. May his efforts be guided by your light, aimed at fostering positive change and prosperity within our community. We lift up the entire city council before you, asking for your divine guidance in their collective decisions. Help them work harmoniously together, united in purpose for the betterment of Basehor. Strengthen their bonds of collaboration and mutual respect and understanding as they navigate the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. Lord, we pray for the city of Basehor, may it thrive under the leadership of these dedicated individuals. Bless its residents with unity, resilience, and spirit of cooperation. May their shared efforts create a vibrant community where kindness, inclusivity, and progress flourish. We commit these aspirations to your loving care, trusting in your guidance and grace to illuminate the path toward a brighter future for Basehor. Amen.
Congratulations, Councilmember Fields. We look forward to another 4 years of service with you as well. At this time, I would invite Councilmember-elect Vicky McEnroe and your husband, Paul, to accompany you up for your swearing in.
New Councilmember-elect Vicky McEnroe, please raise your right hand. Please respond with "I do" at the conclusion of the oath after it has been read aloud. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Kansas and faithfully discharge the duties as member of the Basehor City Council, so help me God. Councilmember Vicky McEnroe will now be pinned by her husband, Paul.
Now's your chance.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present to the community of Basehor our new council member, Vicky McEnroe. At this time, Councilmember Vicky McEnroe, we invite you to join our fellow council members on the dais and introduce any family members you'd like to recognize, and also say a few words to the members of our community. Congratulations.
Well, I've been a member of this community and the school district for years. So teamwork isn't new to me. I am excited about the teamwork here. And it took teamwork to get in touch with people and see what would happen with the election. And fortunately, like I said on Facebook, the best part of the election was just the connection with the people and the positive comments that happened. And part of my team, my daughter Jenny, my granddaughter Elena, my grandson Jackson, my son-in-law Stephen Haig. Part of the team I couldn't do without Randy Lane. The other team member, Lynn Lane, Debbie Drennan, definitely a part of the team. And my other team members are in Omaha watching. So Mark, Amy, Colin, Tyler, I appreciate them. So thank you so much.
Well, congratulations again. We are very excited to have you and can't wait to have you help us continue to shape the very bright future of Basehor. I would just like to reiterate how much we as a staff appreciate working with all of our elected officials. It's truly your policy making and vision that help us set the direction of what needs to be implemented. So thank you to each of you for your service. This community is better because of it. Mayor Drennan, if it pleases you, we would encourage you to consider maybe a 15-minute recess so that we can enjoy some refreshments and take additional photos. And those who don't want to stay for the entire business of the meeting can choose to leave. After they've had a refreshment, of course.
Absolutely. Why don't we come back in at 6:30?
Wonderful. Thank
Okay.
you.
Leslie.
You have a half a minute.
Are we back on the line? Okay. Call to the public. Public comment will be allowed at the mayor's discretion. This is exclusive of items requiring a public hearing. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. As a reminder to the public and city council members alike, the city council and staff will not engage in a dialogue or debate with any speaker pertaining to any comments made. Members of the public wishing to speak must keep their comments germane or relevant to the specific agenda item before the council. Please wait to be recognized by the mayor. Remember to state your name and address for the record. If you are online and would like to participate, please type your name into the chat room and wait to be recognized before unmuting and speaking. I don't see anybody here that wants to speak. Is there anybody online, Kathy? Okay. Move on to the regular meeting. Item number 1, consent agenda. Need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Have a motion to have a second.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. I'll take a vote. Ty,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
Sherry,
Aye.
Vicky.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Your first vote. Yeah,
May I make a request?
absolutely.
Can we move the,
Flag.
yes, sir. Just so I can see the screen.
Yeah.
You do this respectfully.
Yeah.
We have to talk.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you,
I
Ben.
see you dropping it.
Thank you. Now I can see.
You'll see you're not gonna know.
I know. Thank God we're moving.
Item number 2, ordinance number 904, authorizing the issuance of taxable industrial revenue bonds, IRBs, related to the Credo Memory Care Project for the purpose of acquisition, construction, furnishing and equipping of commercial facility, and authorizing other related documents and actions.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mitch Walter with Gilmore and Bell, bond counsel to the city. Before I start, I do have to say this. You might imagine I do attend a fair amount of governing body meetings across the state. And I was struck by the amount of civic pride that the city and the governing body has with its swearing in ceremony. I thought that was unique. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So for this project, the city back in the summer of 2022 accepted an application for the issuance of industrial revenue bonds for the, I'm going to use the continuum care or assisted living facility. I'm just going to call it the project. As part of that application, the applicant requested a 75% tax abatement on the project. And as part of that process, in order to use a tax abatement or provide a tax abatement under state law, there has to be an issuance of an industrial revenue bond. The way that the process typically works is that the applicant will request or apply for a property tax exemption and in the issuance of an industrial revenue bond. The city will adopt what is called an inducement resolution, where it signals the intent to issue an industrial revenue bond, provide a property tax exemption, and also with that a sales tax exemption on all project materials purchased with the proceeds of the bonds. The developer or the company will then take that and construct the project. At the end of the construction of the project, when the project is finished, that's when the bond will actually be issued, because under state law, the taxes, the property goes off the tax rolls the calendar year after which the bonds are issued. So in this situation, the project is very nearly done or done. There's a temporary certificate of occupancy that's been issued, is my understanding. And so in order to take the property off the tax rolls beginning in calendar year 2024, it's necessary to issue the bond in calendar year 2023. This is a unique structure that is common in the state of Kansas, but somewhat unique in that the company's actually buying its own bond. Rather than using the bond as a source of funding, which is how the city, when the city issues bonds for street, sewer, water, a third party will actually buy the bond from the city. In this circumstance, the company buys its own bond for the incentives of the property tax abatement and the sales tax exemption. So the ordinance that the city has before it tonight is to authorize the issuance of a bond, and there is a bond that's issued and printed and held by the trustee on behalf of the company, and authorize all the other necessary documents associated with the issuance of the industrial revenue bond. The primary documents included are a trust indenture, which provides the details of the bond, a site lease and a project lease, because under state law, the city needs a property interest in the facility in order to issue the IRB. And then importantly, the agreement for payment in lieu of taxes, pursuant to which the company is going to pay 25% of the appraised value of the property that's taken off the tax roll. And so the county will actually administer that pilot agreement, the payment in lieu of taxes agreement, on behalf of the city. And so the county will look at the appraised value and just will bill that company for 25% of the appraised value. And those payments from the company to the county are then distributed to all the taxing jurisdictions that would otherwise receive that more property taxes from the company. The city's role is really, other than as a conduit issuer for the bond, in this case, very limited in that it will not, of course, have any operational responsibility for the project. There are no payments that the city will receive or owe to anybody else with respect to the bond issue, and the bond trustee will administer all the other necessary procedures in order to complete the issuance of the bonds. So the city's role is a conduit issuer, but comes with it part and parcel, of course, are the important incentives of the tax abatement and the sales tax exemption. And so this ordinance tonight basically authorizes the execution of the necessary documents and the issuance of the bonds, which is scheduled for December 21st, the day after the bond ordinance publishes, as soon as we can close. There are some city fees that are associated with the issuance of the IRB. The city will receive a fee of approximately $21,000 in connection with the issuance of the IRB, and that's just pursuant to city policy and the origination fees associated with the industrial revenue bond. So I'll go ahead and take a pause there and see if anybody has any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for this gentleman?
I have one quick one,
Sure.
and I voted in favor of this every time, so this is in no way really about the project or any of that. It's just more of a technical question. We've already approved all those prior in 2022.
Yes, so
So-
the city adopted the inducement resolution.
Yes.
Right, and that allows the sales tax exemption certificate to be issued.
Yep. So I guess my question is, in the future, is there any way to, like, I don't feel like we should be voting on this since we've already approved it, because there would be some serious issues if we vote no right now on this. It's like it was already kind of pre-approved and set out there.
Yeah, I haven't seen that before necessarily, basically pre-approving the issuance of the bond. What the city could do in future is pass the bond ordinance somewhat similar tonight and approving a not to exceed amount of a bond. And it could do that closely in connection with the adoption of the inducement resolution. The thing that you run into there, and it probably wouldn't have, well, it may have made a difference in this case, is that under state law, the bonds are issued and then the property goes off the tax rolls the next year.
Right.
And so there could be a situation in which maybe the project wasn't fully completed, given the timing, and then the applicant wouldn't receive the full value of the property tax exemption when they have, a half-finished project, depending on the timeline. But that's something that in any circumstance could be worked through and addressed, I think, without too much difficulty.
Yeah, and I don't want to go too far down after more of this. We move into more of this in the future. Again, this was all approved by the board and council in 22. And I would hate to see us ever trip over something a year later and buildings nearly complete or a TCO. So that's just more I think about in the future comment.
That's a good comment. It's actually one I haven't heard before, and so that's going to generate some discussion between me and my partners. I'll guarantee you that.
Anybody else have any questions? Vicky? Ben?
No.
Sherry? Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So I need a motion for ordinance number 904.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve ordinance 904.
Have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. We'll call for a vote. Ben.
Aye.
Sherry.
Aye.
Vicky.
Aye.
Ty.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Oh, please show that Vernon is not here. Kathy, please. Okay. Moving on to ordinance number 905, 158 Plaza CID ordinance amendment.
Mayor, thank you. Leslie Riverola, City Administrator. What the City Council has in front of you this evening for consideration is ordinance number 905. This ordinance would amend a previously adopted ordinance which established or created the city's first community improvement district, or otherwise referred to as the CID. You may recall that the CID is titled 158 Plaza and is roughly located at the northeast corner of 158th and State Avenue on property owned by Riley Development. Riley Development is in the process of trying to negotiate a number of potential projects and letters of intent. And part of those negotiations, of course, include conversations about cost sharing amongst the CID that developers know exist on that property. And so the request from Mr. Riley is for the council's consideration to increase the cap of the maximum allowable reimbursement to the developer or developers, depending on what relationship Mr. Riley decides to cost share with future developers, from $3 million, which was established in ordinance number 846, to $3.5 million, or an additional $500,000 over what was originally set as the cap. You may recall from the original CID ordinance that CIDs are a statutory option for developers or property owners to self-impose a sales tax. In this case, is what the developer asked, which would be passed on to any consumers that shop at that particular location on eligible sales tax items. So it does not take money away from the city's sales tax stream. This is an additional sales tax that is self-imposed. There are only certain items that are eligible for reimbursement under both that are set out by statute. The governing body had the ability when we created or levied the CID ordinance to also put some additional restrictions on what would be eligible expenses that would be reimbursable to two different projects. So that original ordinance 846 set out those terms. Those terms remain unchanged in ordinance 905. So truly the only adjustment to the ordinance is the maximum amount of reimbursement from 3 million to 3.5 million. Staff is supportive of this request. We think with the number of commercial projects and activity that we've been seeing, we'd really like to see more. That's certainly a way to help offset and alleviate some of the tax burden that is experienced by our residential properties, is to diversify our tax base and grow the commercial opportunities here, which is something we've been very aggressive in working towards. And we think this is a good tool to help hopefully facilitate those projects. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. And Mr. Walter was nice enough to stick around because he is truly a CID expert. I am not. So if you have technical questions that I can't answer, he can certainly do so.
Does anybody have any questions? Sherry?
No.
Ben? Aye.
I'm good with this.
Vicky? We're good.
You.
So I need a motion for ordinance number 905.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt ordinance 905, amending the previous ordinance 846 by increasing the maximum allowable community improvement district sales tax before expiration of such community improvement districts to $3.5 million.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. I'll take a vote. Sherry?
Aye.
Vicky?
Aye.
Ty?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
Mitch,
Mhm.
did you want original signatures? Were you?
Well, I actually thought about that a little bit. I think we've got enough time for the ordinance publishing next day.
Okay.
We are considering an ordinance tonight to publish things on our city website. This needs to be in the city, not the website. We'll do.
you already passed the charter work?
No, that's right. Well, yeah, the charter ordinance is a few weeks ago to next resolution.
Is it a code designation or is it just the city website?
It's city, I'm sorry, we can talk offline. I might just.
Hey, go ahead, Maria, if you need, I mean, we have time to finish. Sure. Go ahead and item number 4, resolution 2023-37, authorizing the funding and contract execution of the civic campus park amenities for the city of Basehor.
Thank you, Mayor. Maddie Waldeck, Deputy City Administrator. Resolution 2023-37 is really an exciting step in completing the civic campus, particularly the park amenities. I do have a presentation. So Kathy, if you could toggle over to that presentation, that would be great. We would like to go over what has been completed to date, what is under constructive actively, and what this resolution would set forth in motion. So if we could go to the next slide. When we look at the civic campus as a whole, we have 4 projects working together at the civic campus, and I apologize that the colors are a little light on the screen there. But the yellow is sort of on the right there that runs along 100. Thank you so much, Kathy. That runs along 158th Street is the Metro Green Trail. That will be advertised with KDOT at the end of this month, and we'll be receiving bids. So construction is just right around the corner. And some exciting news. We attended the Mid-America Regional Council's meeting regarding funding for 2 of our projects, Metro Green Trail and Civic Campus Trails. And it was for the entire region on the Kansas side. There were eligible projects that because we were ready to move forward, we were eligible for additional funding. So we started out with $500,000 for Metro Green Trail, and now we're at $825,000. So we like to see that number keep climbing. And then in the red, we have the Civic Campus Trails, which we had originally started at 1.24 million. But again, because our project was ready to move forward and as staff, we remain engaged with the Mid-America Regional Council process, we were eligible to receive additional funding. So between those 2 projects, almost an additional $500,000. So we're really excited about that. Construction is set to begin in late 2024. And then in the green, which is the premise for tonight's resolution, is the Civic Campus Park amenities, which we would like to begin construction in early 2024. And then, of course, we have in the blue area, the City Hall project, which is well underway. And we are so excited to have all of you join us to view that this evening. And that also includes the parking. So if we could go to the next slide. So some of the things that we've already completed is the retention pond. And I do have a disclaimer on there for the public that although the civic campus, some of the items are completed, it's still actively under construction. So particularly with the sledding hill that's on the next slide. Go to the next. It is completed, but because it's still an active construction site, we're encouraging people not to go onto the site just yet. So the sledding hill was completed as part of the mass grading package last year. We go to the next slide. The construction underway at City Hall. And just as a reminder, when we first bid out the City Hall project, the parking lot was about half that size. And the parking lot was supposed to be split in 2 different phases, phase 1 and phase 2. But because of the competitive pricing that we were able to get and the prudent budgeting of our governing body, we were able to just go ahead and build it out and realize some of those cost savings because we already had those contractors on site. Next slide. Through cooperation with the library, we really want to put the vision of this governing body of true connectivity at the site into action. And so we've worked with the library and all of our third-party professionals to design a sidewalk connection. This was something that wasn't planned in the original project scope, but we've been able to be nimble and be responsive to the community's needs. And so we're very excited to have this added as part of the project. Next slide. Another important feature of the civic campus is the event lawn and amphitheater. And this is a rendering of what that amphitheater will look like. And so if you could just imagine our community out there enjoying some concerts or some time with their families, especially during the summertime, it's really going to be an amazing experience. Next slide. We have the additional parking The additional parking we thought was really important on sort of that dead end there on 159th Street. And we thought additional parking there would be nice so that folks can park in that area and go right to the retention pond and use the dock and the fishing feature as opposed to having to park all the way up at City Hall and walk all the way down.
Yeah.
So that's something that we received feedback from the community. And that's again, an additional feature of the Civic Campus that we've added along in the process. Next slide. Some other connectivity that this governing body approved is connections to the Greyhawk Elementary School and the Early Learning Center. And in addition to that, we've also worked with the library. You know, they're going to expand that library sooner rather than later. It's a beautiful facility. They have a lot of membership there, a lot of participation. And so in addition to the Early Learning Center connection, we're also going to put just a little bulb out so that when they expand, we'll be ready to connect to their rear entrance as well. So we're really trying to plan for connectivity now and in the future. Next slide. The dock is something that we're really excited about so that folks can go fishing, maybe take, you know, we envision the students going out there and taking prom pictures and those sorts of things. This is a rendering of what that will look like. There will be some seating opportunities and also some opportunity to walk out onto the water and fish if they like, or really just take in the scenery. Next slide. This is the rendering of the splash pad. And one of the things that we've heard from, you know, we went to Greyhawk Elementary and heard from the students, and they really like, you know, sunflowers, and they really like the rich agricultural history of the community. And so our designer, Doug Pickert of Indigo Designs, has done a fantastic job trying to bring that to life. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that our splash pad is something that our community can enjoy year round. So when it's in the wintertime and there's no water going on the splash pad, we want it to be a public art piece as opposed to just, oh, there's a splash pad that's not operable because it's wintertime. It's, oh, there's a nice set of sunflowers and wheat. So we're really excited about that dual feature of the splash pad. Next slide. Sort of near 158th Street by the playground area is a place that we're calling Pickert's Peekaboo. And it's in honor of Doug Pickert, our designer for the project, who really brought forth a really incredible idea of planting a lot of trees in an isolated area so that kids can go through and play hide and go seek in an area, maybe while they're, you know, siblings are up there at the playground and parents can sit on the benches and watch their kids play in both areas. So we're really excited about that. And it's honestly something interesting that is not really seen in the metro area. Next slide. This is a rendering of what the large center playground equipment will look like. There's a lot of playability in this. It's going to be really a destination park. We want folks to be able to come here and enjoy all the features of the Civic Campus, and we want a statement piece for a playground that everybody can be proud of. Next slide. Exterior restrooms are incredibly important for all these attendees that will be attending the Civic Campus. And we were very fortunate to work with Hafer Welker, who were the architects for the City Hall, to make sure that the restrooms that we design are consistent and cohesive and look like they belong, as opposed to just a stock restroom that's just placed out there that didn't have a lot of thought. So they put a lot of thought into this design, and you could see that it's really complementary to the City Hall structure as well. Next slide. So just a summary of what I went over. The mass grading, the pond construction, and the sledding hill have been completed. We've got all these different connection options that are underway. We've really enjoyed working with the school district and the library to get those agreements signed. And we're really excited to get these amenities underway. Next slide. So resolution 2023-37, if approved tonight, would essentially do three things. First, it would authorize the transfer of $1.5 million from the general fund to the capital improvement fund for funding the Civic Campus. And this is what I would consider a mechanical piece of the puzzle. We've been talking about these improvements for a really long time. We have funding in the capital improvement fund and in the general fund, and we need authorization to be able to transfer that. And just with any transfer that we do, we always check with our bond counsel and then also our financial advisor to make sure that we are remaining consistent with our fund balance policies and that we wouldn't be in jeopardy of maybe a downgrading our bond rating, which we are certainly not in jeopardy of that. Secondly, it would authorize the city administrator to negotiate an agreement and enter into an agreement with consultation of the city attorney with Crossland Construction for constructing the Civic Campus Park amenities. And the reason for that is we are really impressed with the quality of work that Crossland Construction is doing. And certainly the city could realize cost savings because they're already mobilized at the site. They understand the vision. They understand the vision of this governing body. And as staff, it is our professional recommendation to enter into an agreement with them. And we are honored that they would be interested in doing the construction of our park amenities as well. And then thirdly, it would allow the city administrator to continue to pursue grant opportunities if they're available. And then also, because we have some specialty equipment on site, a splash pad, a playground, maybe entering into cooperative agreements with partners to be able to secure the best possible pricing for that specialty equipment. So if the governing body approves that resolution, this would truly be the start of constructing the Civic Campus Park amenities, something that the community has wanted for a very long time. And we're just incredibly honored to be at this point. And I'd be happy to stand for questions.
I would like to ask, are we seeding everything or sodding it like the sledding hill and stuff? I mean, there's a lot of bare dirt over there.
Yeah, certain areas will be sodded, and then the large grass areas will be have some native plantings and some seed. But certainly the high traffic areas closer to City Hall will be sodded.
Okay.
Yeah, great question there.
Anybody else have any questions? Sherry?
No, just looks exciting, very exciting.
Absolutely. Ben?
Are we sticking with native plants throughout, like around the water? I guess I should speak up here. Are we, I know the library does lots of different things in regards to native grasses and things like that. Are we trying to stick with native grasses and things within the around the water area and stuff like that as well?
We are, and Doug Pickard of Indigo Designs does a phenomenal job of making sure that the plantings that we're doing are plantings that are going to be successful in our environment. And then also, the maintenance factor is a huge contributing factor in that as well. And plantings around that pond are going to help with the health of the pond. And he's very, very careful to make sure that we're planting the appropriate plants in the right place. And we had a great meeting with the community library to make sure that our planting game plan matches what is there. So it really looks like, one feel and one community. We want to make sure that it's a continuous feel and not, oh, there's the library, there's City Hall there. It's really just one community space. Great question.
Would love to see a little bit of milkweed for
Okay.
the butterflies, the butterfly garden that they have. That's partially a joke, but in all seriousness, milkweed around here is really tough to come by, as funny as it sounds. In regards to the peekaboo tree thing that you guys had, all the trees, what were the little round circles that were in between that? Were those something else other than actual trees? Were they,
Yes.
like,
He has some pillars that will be solid that
Okay.
maybe the children can climb to a certain height. And then also, thank you, Kathy.
okay,
That they can climb to a certain height and then also create a little additional barrier for them to hide around. Yeah,
okay, very
yeah,
good.
great question.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Council President.
I am, yes, sorry.
I have no questions. I just love this conversation. It's been 10 years coming, so I'm just absolutely, let's hurry up and keep it moving.
Vicky?
Great example of teamwork and so exciting. So thank you so much.
I have one more, Maddie. Is Doug Pickard an expert, and does he know when the best time and what kind of fish we should be putting in there when we do stock it?
That's a great question. So we've been in contact and the name is escaping me.
Rocky?
Yeah, Gene is probably the expert on that. We got into contact with and the name is escaping me, I apologize, but we have a vendor that we've been in contact with, and we've gotten some pricing about how much that will cost and when the best time of year would be to do that. So we are definitely making sure that we're following the best possible procedures to make sure that the fish have an opportunity to be successful at the pond.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mayor.
If there's no more questions, I'll call for a motion on resolution 2023-37.
Mayor, this is Sherry, and I would move to approve resolution 2023-37, a resolution authorizing the funding and contract execution for the Civic Campus Park amenities for the city of Basehor.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I second it.
Yeah. Got a motion and a second. I'll call for a vote. Vicky?
Aye.
Ty? Aye. Ben?
Aye.
Sherry?
Aye.
Passes 4-0.
Thank you so much.
Awesome job, Maddie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, item number 5, city administrator staff reports. Chief, I'll start with you.
Excellent, thank you, Mayor. We are trying to complete some of the mundane but extremely necessary tasks to close out the year 2023. I can't believe it. Perhaps the biggest piece of news I shared with you all, we applied for our 3rd JAG grant. Received that JAG grant. With that additional funding, we were able to purchase brand new AEDs. We purchased 15 of these units. That means every patrol car will have a unit. There'll be a unit in City Hall, there'll be a unit in the PD, Public Works, and Field of Dreams. So we're super excited about it. This has been a long time coming, so it's nice to see that they finally came in. These are all compatible with our brothers and sisters in the Fairmont Township Fire Department, as well as the county.
Thank you very much, Chief.
Congratulations.
Crystal?
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and City Council members. Welcome. I have been working on a couple of text amendments for the zoning regulations. We will talk about one of them here shortly. We are also working on obtaining GIS services. I think you may all recall that several months ago, I brought forward some ideas to you all, and the City Council had requested that we explore some other avenues, and unfortunately those avenues did not lead to fruitful discussions necessarily. So we've circled back with Integrity, Sam, the mapping company that Gene currently uses for the sanitary sewer and the county uses. And I'm really excited because they're going to be able to put this mapping platform together for us for like under $5,000. So that's very exciting. And they're also going to train me to be able to make updates to it and to get back in the habit of giving you a story map that shows all of our development. So I'm excited about that. And then just, end of the year items and such, and preparing for the new year and a whole new slew of text amendments and updates to, to the documents that the planning department takes care of.
Thank you.
Great, Crystal. Appreciate that. Mr. Jean?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Welcome. Start off with a lot of discussion about the City Hall property today. All the sanitary sewer testing was completed. The pressure test, vacuum test, mandrel test was scheduled to connect the new main Thursday of this week. So once that's completed, all of the storm and sanitary sewer will be completed at the new City Hall structure. Hats off to my guys. We've had a lot of maintenance repair on trucks and equipment from our first winter storm event. So one truck did have to go to a maintenance shop for an item that we couldn't address in-house, but they've knocked a lot of stuff out. The lift station structure is still being fabricated in Nebraska. It is scheduled and have cure time completed by the end of January, 1st of February, and then shipped here, and the contractor will start hammering rock and digging a 38-foot hole deep, 38-foot depth hole. We've completed the street rehab review. I met with Leslie and Maddie. We are looking at 8 different subdivisions to be completed this year. I am just going to be starting with the contract scopes and then present them for review from Maria and Leslie and Maddie. And hopefully by talking with the contractors, we will start work 1st of January. And the asphalt will start 1st of spring, mid to late March, soon as the asphalt plants get up and rolling. But really happy with the areas that we've picked, north of town, south of town, in the heart of town. So we're really happy with the numbers we've received and think it'll be a great benefit to the public.
Do we plan to send that out via social media or anything else like that to kind of, okay,
Yeah, absolutely.
okay, perfect. Thanks, Gene.
Gina, I just want to say too, last year, the very first snow, I've got quite a few phone calls. I just want to let you know that your crew did a fantastic job. I had received no phone calls at all, and that's a great thing. So please, pass that on. That was awesome.
Yeah, the communications we get from all the staff, I make sure to pass it on, and if they have Facebook and they see it, of course, but yes, I will pass it on to them.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Maddie Lou.
Thank you, Mayor. With tonight, I'm going to show you the year in review video, and this was a tradition that we started last year, and we're going to keep that going, which is a video at the end of the year that just really goes over and celebrates everything that we've accomplished in this year. It's about 4.5 minutes, and so I'll turn it over to Kathy, and I hope you enjoy.
That'll be on Facebook and where else?
Yes, we will show it tonight to the city council, and then tomorrow night we'll show it at the holiday party. And then after the holiday party, we'll post it on all of our social media outlets and our website.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor.
Powerful.
That was great.
That was awesome, Maddie.
Thank you very much.
And thank you to all the staff because you guys have worked your tails off this last year. We've accomplished more in this last year than I did the first 10 years of being on the council. I mean, it's awesome. I think Ty's been here as long as I have, so it's awesome. I think
I don't have much, Mayor, and City Council. I just wanted to wish you all a happy holiday season and Merry Christmas.
you, Kathy. Reed, do you have anything?
Can't really follow that video.
Yes.
Yeah. No, nothing specific to report, just continuing to do this as where I can, like contract review, contract wrapping, et cetera. So I guess.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Leslie.
Well, I don't know how you can follow that video.
Yeah.
I mean, really,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what an incredible year. It has been awesome and more to come. So I would just note, we had our downtown master planning meeting and I think we were completely blown away and inspired by how many members of the public attended that and offered feedback and input and on a cold, evening night in December. So that's amazing. I anticipate really being, again, that project is being funded from grant dollars as well. So I look forward to being able to in the future submit downtown improvements and streetscape amenities for grant funding opportunities. Last Friday, we did meet the Mid-America Regional Council deadline to get the projects that were identified by the governing body as priorities into the transportation plan. So that's the first step, as you know, in our process to eventually submit technical applications for scoring to hopefully increase our number well above $18 million in external funds. So that is awesome. Huge thanks to each of you for attending the mayor's Christmas tree lighting. I mean, every year that event gets better and better. And each year I think, oh my goodness, how could we possibly top this year's event? And then somehow the team manages to top last year's event. So it's truly inspiring and incredible. December 20th is when KDOT is scheduled to let 155th Street and Metro Green. So we're not just talking about it anymore. It's happening. It's under construction and the majority of that project is not funded by your tax dollars. It's funded by external dollars. So what an incredible feeling. This would be a good time for you to look at your calendars. Is everyone available on March the 8th? That is when we would like to schedule our groundbreaking celebration for the 155th Street project. We should have a contractor selected. And we are anticipating those projects are tied together. So Metro Green Trail and 155th Street will have the same contractor.
I'm
good. Yeah, probably around 1 o'clock. We selected that date because that's the start of spring break for the school district and their administration building should be open. Superintendent Powers has been extremely gracious and has offered for us to use the boardroom to host a reception afterward and then full use of their parking lot to be able to host our event. But I think Maddie shuddered when I said I want this groundbreaking to be the biggest and largest and best that we've done yet. I said, you never should have put panels on the sides of those tents, because now that I know that they exist, wow, it's like a whole new world for me. So, but we intend to invite the county. We've already sent a save the date to the county. Obviously, the school district, we had students, if you recall, that worked on that project. So we'll have students, hopefully there to speak. We're inviting all of the KDOT staff. We've had a number of different KDOT teams that have touched our projects, and they have been just absolutely outstanding to work with and have been a huge benefit to really in teaching us and training us on the technical side of the KDOT piece once you get money. And then, of course, our friends at Mid-America Regional Council. So I think it's going to be a great day to just celebrate all of the things that have continued to be awesome and make Basehor such a special community. So I'm looking forward to an even better 2024. I don't know how you top 2023, but you know, I think we might. I think we might. So that's all I
For the
have.
best, you guys. Okay, moving on to council members report. Sherry, I'll start with you.
Thank you. I do have a few things. On November 10th, I went to the Leavenworth County Development Corporation's annual VIP event. That was out at Falcon Lakes. November 15th, the mayor and I went to the Register of Deeds ribbon cutting ceremony. On the 16th of November, we had the downtown stakeholder visioning workshop, and that was really well attended and very informative. Of course, December 1 was the mayor's Christmas tree lighting, which was fantastic. That was a lot of fun. It was nice to see the fire trucks there with Santa Claus. The kids loved it. And then this is just something, it's not city council related, but I just want to say how excited I was for Basehor as a city. You know, we've had a lot of, like, we've had the attorney general in town, we've had senators come to town, we've had House representatives in town. Well, Basehor had a movie star in town. So Mr. Jim Caviezel, the actor that was in Person of Interest and also in the new Sound of Freedom movie, was at the Catholic Church. There were 600 people there. It was absolutely an amazing day. So I just wanted to say that because it just makes me excited when Basehor has things like that happen. And then, of course, December 5th, I attended the downtown public open house for the corridor plan. December 9th was the Chamber of Commerce Christmas party. It was very nice. Enjoyed that. Just before the meeting today, I was blessed to be able to go out and tour the new city hall. Very exciting to see how that's coming along. Tomorrow at noon, I'll be going to the Leavenworth County Development Corporation's monthly meeting. And then tomorrow night, we've got our holiday party. And then I just want to say a little shout out to a letter that we received from Gracie, that's a 7th grader. And first off, I want to say thanks for your letter, and that I liked all your suggestions. And I think that we'll work on that 2024 as a council. But yeah, I think we'd like to see more businesses, restaurants, sidewalks come to Basehor. And we enjoy hearing from the community. So I hope we have more young people and adults both continue to communicate with us. I do want to say congratulations to Vicki, Ben, and Vernon for newly elected and re-elected individuals. And then just Merry Christmas to everybody. So have a great holiday and enjoy the next couple of weeks with family and friends.
Thanks, Sherry. Ben.
First and foremost, Chief, congratulations on the AEDs and the money that you used to get those AEDs. That's a wonderful job. Absolutely. To city staff, you guys did a wonderful job all year. I mean, obviously, Maddie, that was unbelievable. I mean, way to wrap it up in a bow. I think the only thing that it missed at the end with the snow falling was maybe a picture of us at the happy holidays or something. I mean, that's beautiful. You can always edit that later. Also, yeah, in regards to the mayor's Christmas tree lighting, I mean, that was wonderful. You guys did an awesome job. Like you said, I mean, every year it seems to get better. And it's unbelievable how you hear the people that come and where they come from. and they come from big cities to come to our little old library and to our little town to see the Christmas tree lighting, which is really neat, to say the least. So if nothing else, happy holidays. Thank you for all you do for us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Kai?
Wow, those are hard to beat up. Again, happy holidays to everybody. I'll see everybody in January, because I'll be around tomorrow at the event. Great video. My annual repeat of all this work that's happening now is absolutely wonderful, like brings chills to you. It started
Absolutely.
4 years ago. When did we hire you? 4 years
Yeah.
ago? This work actually started 4 years ago. Then we put plans in place. You guys are executing wonderfully. That's kind of my annual, what are we going to be doing 4 years from now, that I bring up every so often. So I hope we continue to push for, I love everything that's happening. It's great for the city, but let's not rest and let's get what's next. And I know you guys are working on it. So, and happy holidays. Welcome aboard. Look forward to working with you.
Becky?
Well, thank you. My goodness, what an evening tonight. You guys, I mean, when you do something, you do it right. So we greatly appreciate that, whether it's from the mayor's Christmas tree to what happened here tonight. And that's the exciting thing for me, being a part of this team, professional, quality, enthusiastic. I'm ready to go and start. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Moving on to item number 7, mayor's report. We'll start off with the mayor's golf tournament money. I have donated to the VFW Integrated Behavioral Systems, Blaze. There's a young man here in Basehor that is 3 years old or I think he's 4 years old now, has a brain tumor. We donated to him, and we have more to go. We also adopted 33 students in the Basehor-Linwood School District. It wasn't just Basehor, it was the whole school district because it's all one. What we didn't want to happen is have a junior in high school bring home a big bag of presents and they have a brother or sister that goes to Linwood and not have anything. So I met with my wife and I met with all the counselors and Maddie, and we explained what we're doing, what we want to do. We spent approximately $250 on each child. I was at Linwood Ridge talking to the 3rd graders, and my ring went off and I had 3 police cars in my driveway carrying out big black bags. I know my people in the neighborhood was thinking, oh God, they're raiding the mayor's house. But we got those all, police delivered them all. So there's kids in this district that's going to have a Christmas that wouldn't have. My wife and I and Vicki and Paul McEnroe, Randy and Lynn Lane, we wrapped over 251 gifts. So it's great. We got it all done. And hopefully next year we don't have to have any kids, but we know that probably is not going to happen. But that's why we do the mayor's golf tournament. We still have, what is the name up in Leavenworth of the child abuse program?
Child Abuse
Prevention Council. I will adopt, take care of them again this year. So it's been great, guys. I appreciate all the support to the staff to make the golf tournament go so great. We went, like Sherry and Ben said, we went to the chamber meeting, our dinner Saturday night last week, had a good representation from the city. It's great to be a Basehor resident. I'm proud to be your mayor, and wish you all happy holidays, and we'll see y'all tomorrow night. Thank you. We don't have a need for an executive session, right?
We do not.
Okay.
We're just going to ruin all the jolly by going to a work session.
So you call for a motion to adjourn the regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We'll go right into the work session. First item is request for proposals, RFP for youth athletic programming and concessions operations for the Field of Dreams Athletic Complex located at 14333 Fairmont Road, Basehor, Kansas, 66007.
Thank you, Mayor. Leslie Riverola, City Administrator. The item that you have in front of you this evening is a draft request for proposal for operating or operations of the Field of Dreams facility, which, as you know, is owned by the City of Basehor. I will not go page by page through the draft RFP. You may recall that at an earlier meeting this fall, the City Council actually authorized staff to go ahead and issue the RFP. The reason why the RFP is in front of you this evening is as we were putting together this document, it was not lost on us that there are a number of really policy decisions related to the issuance of this RFP. And we thought it incredibly important that we get the city council and certainly the mayor's input on some of these important policy decisions before the final RFP is actually released to, potential programmers and respondents. So I'm happy to go page by page if you would like, but I would just point out there are a few items that we've bulleted that we really think are kind of the standout questions or policy questions for the city council to consider. From the outset, I would let the council know we have been contacted multiple times by an operator who is not currently in the Leavenworth County market, but that is very prevalent in the Johnson County market. And they've actually transitioned and are doing some work on the Missouri side as well. And operations that have expressed an interest in our facility should the city council go out for RFPs and look at operators. The current operator has actually expressed an interest in potentially responding to any RFP that would be issued as well. And of course, there's no one excluded from being able to respond. So I'll just kind of go through the list. And then, of course, if you see things within the document that you'd like to talk about more fully, I'm happy to do that as well. One of the feedback components that we've heard just from professionals in the space, we contacted Johnson County Park and Recreation District as well. That's one of the facilities that we toured on the Field of Dreams Special Committee, was that the Field of Dreams really is trying to provide a little bit of programming for everyone. And that you start to lose or dilute a little bit of your identity when you're trying to do such broad programming and you don't really have a specialty area. And what we heard from a feedback perspective from operators is that when you're trying to provide such a diverse range of programming, so for example, soccer and football, those are typically happening on the same fields if they're not truly a dedicated or separate field. And those football cleats are not always conducive with soccer cleats. And so the space becomes very hard to maintain. Parking becomes an issue. And so you really are always maintaining that at a very recreational level, not a competitive level. And as we've seen in the market and the trends, people typically will start out at a more rec level and then they quickly advance and start having expectations of playing on turf, whether it's football, soccer. I mean, it doesn't really matter what sport. And we saw that on some of the tours that we went on. So one of the questions that is really in front of the council tonight is the RFP is drafted where the required programming is baseball, softball, and the RFP is drafted to encourage the operators to consider continuing football, cheerleading, and soccer, but they wouldn't be required. So I'll pause on that to get any feedback and input. And we can obviously modify this because this is your RFP and it's your facility. So we can modify it to whatever the city council wants to see.
My only question was, how active is the football? So if it's really active and then we get this going and say, oh, wait a minute, we aren't going to include it, what's that impact going to be?
So that is a great question, Councilmember McEnroe. So currently in 2023, we've had 1,192 participation or participants in programs across all of the programming. And of that 775 of the 1,192 or 65% are baseball, softball. So they are the lion's share of the market. And that has been pretty consistent from about 2016. So in 2016, baseball, softball was 64% of the market. 2017, it dipped slightly to 59%. It's been as high as 67%. So certainly the next highest is football. So we could, if the city council feels strongly that football needs to stay in the programming as a requirement of the operator of Field of Dreams, my suggestion would be that we revise the RFP so that operators could partner together, or they could lease or subcontract the programming of football as an option.
Originally, we had looked at putting in soccer fields and things like that out by where our new city hall is going to be. Have we scrapped the idea of putting any fields out there at this point?
So we do not have any immediate plans for soccer fields on the Civic campus. And just what we've seen in the market from a soccer perspective is those fields. So if you've been to like a Garmin soccer complex or a Shields soccer complex, very intense and heavy usage on parking. The parking, there's never enough parking. They are often on the streets, they're in the curbs, they're over the sidewalks. So we're not actively pursuing that programming on that site just because of the school.
I guess my only scare in maybe the priority of it being just baseball and softball is then we do obviously lose the younger kids that start off in sports in the soccer and football and in some of those other arenas. Also, and I'm going to try to say this without sounding negative, but how many children and parents have we lost in the last 5 to 10 years going elsewhere in those sports because of maybe the service, I should say. So, I mean, I think I completely agree with you off of statistics that the majority of the money and the individuals that come out here and utilize the facility are baseball and softball. But I also think of where has the individual that's running it out there, where's his focus primarily been? And it has been on baseball and softball. So have we lost people because of that in those other sports as well?
And can I jump in there just a second?
Yeah, absolutely.
We also have to consider if we're going to keep it a rec league or we're going to go to a competitive league. What they have out there now in baseball, softball is basically a rec league, which is great for, there's a lot, not every kid is Mr. Johnny be good, so that's why we survive out there. And I don't care which way we go, but I think we need to look at that because ever since Troy's been running it, it's been more of a rec league. So I think that should be part of this conversation is if we keep it a rec league or if we're going to open it up to make it competitive. Now they have competitive softball out there every weekend, but as far as during the week, what they do for around here in Basehor is basically just a rec league.
So Mayor, one of the things that we could do, and the RFP has some pretty robust expectations of the respondent to talk about how they would provide programming. So structure of programming, types of programming, tournament play, league information. So I think we'll be able to tease out what does an operator coming to our market think they can do in this space? Do they envision this being rec and competitive? Is their bread and butter going to be weekend tournaments as we see currently? One of the things that we could do, Councilmember Sims, to respond to what you're saying is we could change or adjust the language in the RFP to say, this is all of the programming that's happening out there now. Give us your plan on how you would continue to provide these and what the priority, where would your priorities be in programming and how would you be able to make all of these programs work and really kind of couch it in a different way? and see what kind of responses we get.
Sure. Yeah.
Or maybe if we aren't doing competitive football, competitive soccer, just look to continue the intramural type thing until the program does build. But softball and baseball has been.
So on the programming piece, I think just based upon the feedback that we're hearing, if the council's comfortable with it, we'll revise that language so that it expands upon what we have currently and just provide, here's everything that's happening now. Give us your program plan on how you would make these work and can you make these work? I think kind of second to that, we would say if there's one or two you can't make work, you need to tell us what those would be and why. And I think we say we're open to the idea of additional them subleasing or working with other folks in the space who that is what they do. So that's the one of the items. Are there any other thoughts on the programming piece of the RFP?
Real quick.
Yes, absolutely.
There's not much rec left. And any of the nice fields you see is for either tournament driven or competitive. And the rec truly is usually a countywide rec with school districts and everybody's involved except where it's not profitable. So I would anticipate our RFP being a heavy tournament. And regarding the football, you probably only have 5 Basehor teams out of all those football kids that are playing. So yes, they say it's a draw for bringing people in, but they really don't. They come in, they play one game and they leave.
Yeah.
There are 20 plus brand new baseball fields just built. They'll be open in March.
Yep.
5 miles that direction. And they just built a bunch more soccer fields. It'll be tough in ours to compete soccer wise because we have 3 football fields. Well, you go down to Johnson County and they have, I went down there and watched my grandkid and there must have been 40 teams at the same time playing. So we may have a competitive disadvantage in both. Especially in soccer for not having high contract.
Right.
So I think we kind of open it up and just let them say what they can do.
Okay.
And then we can look at what their offer is and what the RFP looks like. I think if we limit it too much,
yeah,
you may get one bid or no bids.
And I agree.
So whatever kind of opens that up to actually see what people are willing to do.
Yeah, I think that's great. So one of the things that we have set forth in this RFP that has been lacking in our current program is the requirement of background checks for all staff and volunteers that are working or operating at the facility, to include volunteer coaches. That's not to say that the current operator may not be doing that separately. I don't know, but that's not a program requirement of our current agreement. And so we thought it important to make sure that it is set forth. So I want to be clear. I'm not suggesting how he's operating the facility at this time. I'm just saying that it's not currently part of our contractual arrangement. It's not a contractual requirement. So
Nowadays, that's a great idea.
yeah. We also, again, I'm not implying or suggesting that the current operator is not doing this. I'm just simply saying it's not part of our current operating agreement, but our suggested language is to require that the operator provide training to all coaches, to include safety protocols, and, document that is happening so that everybody has it available at our disposal should we request that information. The draft RFP suggests or requests that the respondent actually provide a recommended fee structure, based upon how they anticipate running their model. Again, I wasn't here when we purchased the facility and I wasn't here when we started programming the facility. So I don't know how we arrived at the contractual number that we started receiving and then how we escalated it from there. I can't find any evidence of any sort of like pro forma or anything that showed us what we thought that facility could generate in terms of revenue. I think it's just, again, important that an operator tell us, okay, based upon the facility, its condition, based on the number of participants you think you can get in here, what is your suggested cost sharing arrangement? As I think many of you know, the city is currently providing a 50% rebate to every city of Basehor participant that participates in these programs, really regardless of whether they actually live here or not. So like, as long as they have a base or as long as they show a base or address. So in that could be like a rental property that they don't live at, but it's in their name. So just to give you an idea of what some of those rebate amounts have been costing us, in 2022, we actually rebated $9,442.50. Just for some perspective, our annual fees that we receive are $41,000 for the same period of time. So, I mean, we're rebating almost $10,000 of a $41,000 contract. And that comes from the city. That doesn't come out of any of the operators' profits, of course. In 2023, we've already rebated $9,197.50. So it is staff's recommendation, and I understand that it is not popular. I'm sure it won't be popular, but it is staff's recommendation that that rebate discontinue. If the city council feels strongly about providing some sort of incentive for Basehor residents, I would suggest that that be built into the fee structure of registration. So perhaps it's a $5 discount or a $10 discount on registration, but that should really, again, be driven by some of the economics that we see from the operator, rather than us taking money away from truly the money that we should be setting aside to make reinvestments into that facility. And that's what's happening. We're rebating money that should be going back into the operations and maintenance of the facility. So I'll pause on that because I'm sure that's a significant policy issue.
That's
Crazy.
It is crazy. Anybody have anything to say, they want to say on that?
Is that fairly common in other communities that we've looked at, that do they do rebates, or are we unique in that?
We're unique.
I know of no city that does a rebate.
Okay.
Now, there are some that structure, again, like maybe a discount on registration, but not all of them.
And again, the majority that goes on is not really rec, it's just tournaments and stuff.
Yes.
There's no way in hell we should be rebating. That's the profit side of this, are those tournaments, those activities. You shouldn't be rebating that at all.
You're taking double steps. No.
At one point, we did send this out for bid years ago.
Okay,
We got 0.
yeah,
So we had to find somebody.
okay.
People prior to Troy, actually, like, we're out. We had nobody, and we didn't want the city to run it, so we thought we'd lose too much.
Yeah.
Facility, so I can't wait to see the RFPs that we get back. It's bringing back nightmares for me.
Yeah, I should back way up to say, you know, as we in the city council will recall, there's no way that the city is in a position to operate or run or manage the Field of Dreams. That would require an entirely new department with an entirely different skill set and focus and relationship building, all the way down to maintenance crew. So
Actually, tax bill for parking rec is 600,000. It's covering their rec department, and the school gives into it as well. So when you combine the two,
yeah, it's a little more feasible.
So yeah, we can't without school, county,
Yeah.
all kinds of discussion.
Well, my point is that we used to have just a rec program. Then amazing things happened and we got the Field of Dreams. That was truly why it was called Field of Dreams. But the structure was not in place to support the way it expanded. Therefore, it falls apart in terms of operating the way it should. So congratulations for trying to pull this back together.
So the next items that we have on here are really just what I would call some belt and suspender things that I've heard feedback from the governing body over, you know, the last several years, which is, again, currently our operating agreement does not provide any information on the success of the facility. The only information that you see is registration and participants for the leagues. We have no idea how many people are coming through in tournaments, how many tournaments have happened. I mean, we have very limited access to information. And so this would require the operator to share with us annual revenues and expenditures associated with the operations of the facility. We think that's an important piece. Again, we understand that an operator needs to make money and we want them to make money. If they're successful, we're successful. But it helps us to be able to gauge what is working at the facility and where should we be focusing our capital priorities, which is kind of the final policy piece here, which is we would want the operator on an annual basis to work with staff and then make presentations to the governing body, just like our trash provider does, to talk to us about how are things going at the facility? What type of feedback are they hearing? What type of capital improvements might we start considering or planning for, and really help shape what the priorities are for reinvestment. We know that we cannot own and operate a facility of this size without continually making improvements. This cannot be a one and done sort of thing. So I am happy to answer any other questions, thoughts, ideas that you have. Certainly, if you've looked through the document, it is, it's several pages. If you have specific ideas or things that you want to see revised, again, this is your RFP. We're happy to make any adjustments that you would like to see.
I think that.
When is phase 2 actually getting started?
So should be very soon. We actually just got all of our kind of comments back on the professional services contract. So and we have selected a contractor for that work. So they should be very quickly.
I'm only asking because should we wait till we get some of these RFP backs to see if they have other, hey, we might bid this, but we want you to do this, this, and this. It might kind of change up some of our staging. And I'm not trying to screw up like we're ready to roll out phase 2. But if they come out and say, yeah, I can bid this, but you guys need to another 300,000 in it that we hadn't considered. Or, I don't know what this RFPs might look like, or what the how much the second phase is going to cost.
Second phase is about $350,000.
So should we spend that before we know if we have anybody want to pay us anything to do this? Or
The improvements in phase 2 are the renovation of the restrooms down at the lower fields, bleachers at the rest of the fields, and then backstop netting at the 4 center concourse
Yeah,
fields.
it's more of a safety hazard thing than
Right.
it's just to make it better it's a safety thing.
There may be a phase 3.
there may be a phase 3.
Yeah.
Well, and I know I was on the committee and and we met for a year and talked about this. And I know we did a survey of users and that really helped us to determine priorities based upon the people that are actually paying to go out there and use the fields. Although we realize there's still a lot of other projects that need to happen. And kind of like what you were saying, Ty, maybe to have a vision to continue making improvements either with the committee or a new committee, and maybe whoever bids on the RFP, based on what they need, it could be a mix. And, they may want to do a survey also just to find out, what users would want. So, but yeah, if that helps a little bit because I know we really dug into it and spent a year. I think we met every single month.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I'm not saying stop it. I'm just thinking we're gonna have to start rolling these things together because I just don't think we're gonna get this perfect RFP response that everybody's jolly about.
I didn't see anything about concessions.
So there is, I think at least there was at one point on, give me 1 second, let me see where they so we on section 4A operations, the third bullet is for the operator to provide a detailed description of proposed concession operations, if any. And that they would be responsible for following all applicable laws, getting any of the necessary state food permits, depending on what they're, what type of concession they're trying to offer.
Okay.
Ben, you got anything else?
You had some statistics around money in, so revenue received $41,000. You've rebated back 9,000. Do we have any idea for phase one, approximately what we spent on an annual basis out there upkeep?
Wasn't it 50,000 a year?
Yeah.
I guess I don't need to know the exact number. I mean, I guess my point in the statement is it's a liability, right? To a certain extent, right? We're doing this, maintaining it and paying in money year after year after year without any real true legitimate upkeep in
Correct.
regards to upgrades or anything else, and it just continues to deteriorate. Throughout all of this process, I think my whole vision in it, and unfortunately, if we have to do away with the $10,000 as far as rebates back, that's unfortunate, but I want to get this back to be an asset, right? Where we are taking the money that we're hopefully making some money, so then we can put it back into the facilities.
Absolutely.
Not where we're continuing to spend tax dollars year after year after year for this upkeep. I mean, ideally, that's really what I want to see. And I think everybody really wants that as a vision. But unfortunately, just where we stand and the arrangement that we're under is regardless of whether the current operator makes $1 million or loses and doesn't receive any money, you know, we're only sitting getting basically $41,000 a year. So yeah, opening up the books, being able to do an audit and be able to basically see how much money that really is coming into this facility, which that I know of, I haven't seen anything of that yet. And then maybe have an arrangement where it's, yeah, a cost sharing situation where if they're making more money, hopefully we're making more money, utilization, so then we can put that money back into the facilities themselves, right? Just like a normal legitimate business would, right? So that's it. That's all.
Big downfall over the past couple of years is the increased price in fertilizer and seed. So the venue, you have to keep your field maintenance up. After your $10,000 in maintenance, almost a little over 70% is just goes back into field maintenance for grass seed and fertilizer. So, and the numbers just keep going up, and that leaves you $12,000 to $15,000 that, you know, if we have a sewer line that needs replaced,
yep,
it's broken in January.
Yep.
You have no operating money the rest of the year.
Right.
Correct.
And, you know, I know we had mentioned, you know, maybe considering opening up to public advertising. So I don't know if we've ever, you know, want to visit that thought again. I see it a lot of other sporting fields in the area.
We actually included some language about that in the RFP as well, in
Excellent.
anticipation that that again would be something that we would expect to cost share. You know,
Okay.
we would anticipate that they hopefully bring some vendors with them. And so we anticipated that as well as marketing efforts.
Very good. Thank you.
Well, just a question that I have a clarification. I understand the contract is written like for 5 years.
So contract term is set 100% by the governing body. So it really could be a 1-year term with successive 1-year renewals. It could be up to a maximum number of renewals. I think that's really.
My own question was, I don't have a problem with the 5 years, but maybe adding in there like a trial period of time where if we don't match up, we can part ways.
So,
and I see there's, if there's a problem, either way, there's 90 days to give notice. If there's a problem, it's 90 days, quite a long time.
I hear that. I think the 90 days is probably okay because most of your sporting seasons are 90 or 120 days. So if you get it off today, what happens to all the kids that are playing baseball for 90-day softball rec season, or football's about 90 days. So
But if there's a problem and you're saying
it's a
bye.
big the problem is.
Just a thought.
That's good feedback.
Anybody else have anything we'll talk about right now?
Could you be a little mute on the term?
Yeah, we have
Or
some-
like a term to be discussed in your RFP, same way with the termination period, and just kind of see what we get back from offers. Because I don't know if a 1 year or 3 year or 5 year or 7 years is more valuable to them. and what
Yeah,
might
we
be a
could-
Better offer to us.
We could ask them to, similar to the programming piece, we could ask them to suggest what would their recommended term
Term be.
be or their requested term be? And then, of course, we would negotiate that.
Yeah, I think coming from them would be better because we don't know exactly what would be a good, time period.
Mhm.
I also see it says that you'll decide on performance measurements and standards with the person in place. Did I understand that?
No, so what we were trying to say is that we know that we need to have performance standards in the agreement. The current agreement have performance standards. Some of those performance standards would really be driven by programming. So until we know what the suite of programs are, we
Okay,
wouldn't make recommendations to the governing body. And then ultimately we would want feedback from the contractor or the operator on whether or not those performance standards make sense. There also have to be penalty provisions if you have performance standards, because there have to be teeth. Having performance standards that don't have any enforceability, you might as well not have them. So we have to figure out, again, what would those performance standards be based upon the programming that they're offering and what we've agreed to, and then develop that language as part of the contract package once we've selected an operator and we know what that looks like.
well, you've been very inclusive in outlining things, so that's awesome. And we need that in that position. So making sure this person coming in knows that there are some high expectations here.
Agreed.
Anybody else? Okay. Move on to item number 2, Field of Dreams Capital Improvements Update.
Thank you, Mayor. Maddie Waldeck, Deputy City Administrator. We had already reviewed this in the previous discussion, but just as a reminder, we are working on executing professional services agreements for the additional bleachers at the remaining fields, the renovation of the lower field restrooms, and then the backstop netting at the center concourse. Very excited to get that underway. Happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Maddie? Good. Thanks, Maddie. Appreciate it. Item number 4, text amendment, Article 7 and Appendix A. Oh, number 3, I'm sorry. Annual. Hey, Tide's getting antsy up here. I was trying to get through this.
Computer died. I'm not there. It literally died. So.
Item number 3, annual elected officials training, Cora city ethics policy.
Thank you, Mayor.
It died. So it's not-
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I'm here to provide a training on 2 Kansas state laws and 1 city policy that was established by the governing body that has specific applicability to you all as elected officials of the city of Basehor. If at any time you have questions, please feel free to stop me and ask. You can think of something after this training. As well.
Did we all need to be present for this?
Well, I can provide the PowerPoint to.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we all needed to be here. Or how we're going to provide training.
I think it's beneficial for all of the members to receive this training. The ethics policy, as I'll discuss later, does anticipate that you all shall receive the ethics training and review the policy annually, so we'll have to follow.
Perfect, thank you.
So this is a three.
I didn't do
This is a 3-part training. The first part covers the Kansas Open Meetings Act. Secondly, I'll talk about the Kansas Open Records Act, and then lastly, that governing body ethics policy. So we'll start with the Kansas Open Meetings Act. Next slide. So the overarching purpose of the Kansas Open Meetings Act is really transparency and accessibility for members of the public to observe and really know what's going on in local government. Our Kansas Open Meetings Act was adopted by the Kansas legislature in 1972, so it is a fairly longstanding law here in Kansas. It requires local and state government to conduct business of the public in public because, as it says in the state statute, a representative government is dependent upon an informed electorate. The COMA, which is Kansas Open Meetings Act for short, is interpreted liberally. Exceptions are applied very appropriately. There are penalties associated with violating COMA, as I'll describe on the later slide. So really the default in Kansas is that these meetings are open to the public, and there are very limited exceptions that would apply to the rules. So I'll start out by saying, when does COMA apply? It doesn't apply to every single person or entity in the state of Kansas. There are two things that need to occur in order to trigger COMA, and I'll discuss these more in detail, but up front, I'll tell you that number one, the body involved needs to be covered by the act. And number two, there has to be a meeting as defined in the act. So who is subject to COMA? The state law says that all legislative and administrative bodies, state agencies, and political and taxing subdivisions, which receive or expend and are supported in whole or in part by public funds. So I can really cut to the chase and say this means local governments. The city of Basehor is subject to COMA. Any commission, committee, or that is established by this governing body would also be subject to COMA. There are a few exceptions to that in the law. The judiciary, judges, courts, bodies exercising quasi judicial function, private organizations, and staff meetings are not covered under COMA. So if Leslie has a staff meeting with the health department heads, for example, that is not subject to public observation or viewing. Occasionally, rarely, but sometimes it does happen, you all here on the city council will exercise a quasi judicial role, which means that you are applying specific facts to certain laws and deliberating what the answer is, whether those facts apply to the laws. In those cases, you are acting more as a judge in a judiciary role rather than a policy maker, politician. So the law anticipates that those kinds of conversations will be subject to an example of that, for example, we would be zoning questions. If there were ever a grievance procedure that came for a particular body, that would be a constitution. Okay, so the second prong of when COMA applies is the question, when does a meeting occur? And this has 3 prongs to it. Note very importantly that all 3 of these have to occur at the same time together. So it's not that you have 1 and 3, but 2 is missing. They all have to be present. So I'll go through all of these as well, but at the outset, there has to be a gathering or assembly in person or through the use of a telephone or other medium for interactive communication by a majority of the membership of the body and for the purpose of discussing the business or affairs of the body. So let's talk about interactive communication first. On the next slide. So basically, you all are talking to each other. It's interactive. There's back and forth, and that can be when you all are physically present together. It can mean that you guys are having phone conversation, video on Zoom or Teams, perhaps work sessions, staff briefings where there's a majority of you all present. And really what we're looking for is the opportunity for contemporaneous interaction. A meeting occurs when there's interactive communication by a majority of the body. In Basehor, a majority of the membership of this body is 3, and the mayor does not count towards it. So that means that there can be a meeting with the mayor and 2 council members present, and that would not violate. But once you have 3 council members present, not including the mayor, that's may be triggered. And then finally, there has to be a discussion of the business or affairs of the body. A vote or binding action is not necessary to trigger COMA. It's just a mere discussion about business of the city, business of the body that could trigger this. Note that social gatherings are not subject to COMA if there's no discussion of the business of the body. So if you are at a birthday party together, you are discussing sports, it has nothing to do with City of Basehor or your duties as council members, and that does not trigger COMA. You all might appear at social gatherings sometimes, and periodically it's good practice to remind you as staff. You all might have a majority at this certain event, make sure that you don't talk shop while you're there. So we try to provide those often to you. Council members may attend events like conferences where items of general interest are discussed as long as specific business of the body is not discussed by the jury. Okay, importantly, these days, the use of advanced technology can directly affect compliance with COMA. And the Attorney General has dealt with this in recent years, where in a specific 2021 example, small city in Kansas where the governing body was 3 members. One member, well, things I should back up. There was a meeting in which only 2 of the 3 members attended, and they ended up appointing a number of people to a local board. The 3rd member who was absent from that event got on Facebook and started posting about kind of displeasure about what had happened, how he disagreed with the votes. Then another member who was there at the meeting replied to that thread on Facebook, and it just sits back and forth. Communication between those 2 members, which was a majority because there were 3 total, so 2 was the majority. There was a complaint lodged with the Attorney General's office that found that there was in fact a COMA violation. This was the meeting under COMA that did not have number notice or really accessibility to the public when it happened. And so we have to keep that in mind that when we think of meetings, we think of this sort of setting, but it can certainly be on the finger on social media. So some tips are to avoid initiating an online discussion with fellow council members via email. You may receive emails about a city matter, and all other council members are also sent a comment on email. Please avoid reply all and don't use a forward function. We don't want to have an interactive conversation with others. Relatedly, there's something called serial communication, which is when you can have a meeting even when you all are not physically present with each other. So a serial meeting is an interactive communication that happens with the majority of the public body. They share a common topic of discussion, and there is intent by any or all the members to reach an agreement that would otherwise require action. So examples of that, again, are the reply all function, forwarding threads or email chains between council members, and also notably the use of an agent or otherwise a staff member. So if one council member A asks the city administrator to pass a message to council member B, and then let me know what the answer is. Okay, now that I know the answer, please go to council member D, and then tell me what they say, kind of using the city administrator as go between. That can be a violation of COMA as well. COMA does not require an agenda to be made. I know that we have one each meeting here in Basehor. It's actually not required under the law. If a covered entity, so to speak, has one, it needs to include known topics for discussion, and it can be amended during the meeting if the governing body decides to do that. Notice of the date, time, and place of any regular or special meeting must be given to any person requesting such notice. So municipalities in Kansas are not required to post the notice on the website, for example, or provide it to the public unless that specific person has actually requested the notice. We do it as good practice so that the public knows what's going to use. That's what that's actually not required. And then there's no time frame for providing that notice. Well, I'm familiar with executive sessions. That is one of the limited exceptions for having an open meeting in Kansas that allows certain statutorily listed reasons for having a closed session to discuss things out of the public legal. Binding action cannot be taken during a closed session, but the council can certainly come to a consensus, provide some direction, but there's no binding action. You're not entering into an agreement. You're not making any big decisions that otherwise would need to be made out. So the statute lists a number of justifications that can be used to enter into executive session. That includes popular ones like personnel matters of non-elected personnel, consultation with the public body's attorney. In that case, obviously the attorney can speak there, really having a big part of that discussion. Employer-employee negotiations, preliminary discussions related to the acquisition of real property, and then security measures. And plans about building security or personal security here can be discussed out of public. So before going into an executive session, the body must first convene in the meeting. The meeting cannot just start back in the executive session. You all have to come in here first, convene the meeting and then recess the session. There must be a formal motion seconded and carried that contains a statement of the justification for closure, the subject to be discussed, and the time and place where the meeting will resume. The process must be reported in the minutes of the meeting and maintained as part of the permanent record of the public one. Importantly, if the motion for the executive session says 20 minutes, for example, and you all were to finish 10 minutes after that or 15, or you don't use the entire time, you all would have to stay back there for the time which is public so 20 minutes. Similarly, if you all need more time, if you only ask for 20 minutes, but you actually need 45 minutes, you would have to come back into this room, reconvene the meeting, and then recess again. Make a new motion for an executive session. In Kansas, under COMA, meeting minutes are not required. There is one exception to that, which is that if you do recess into executive session, the verbatim motion must be made for the public to see as well. Okay, so the penalties under COMA include a civil penalty of up to $500 per violation, and that is actually paid by the individual member of the governing body or the board or the committee that had violated COMA. So it's out of pocket, the city would not pay for it. There could be required completion of training that the attorney general puts on, for example. There is an order to cease and desist from further violation in order to comply with COMA in the future. And then there might be additional charges and expenses depending on how big of an investigation the attorney general has to take out. So there would be reasonable expenses with that, investigators are offset. Okay, let's do that kind of quickly. Are there any questions on COMA before we put it before us?
We got any questions?
Okay, so the Kansas Open Records Act, another Kansas state law, again, the overarching thing here is transparency and accessibility of records to members of the public. Public record is defined in the law pretty broadly. It means any recorded information regardless of form, characteristics, or location which is made, maintained, or kept by, or in the possession of any public agency, any employee of the public agency pursuant to their duties, which is related to the functions, activities, programs, or operations. That includes written records, photographs, computer data, emails. There was some discussion in the Attorney General a few years ago about text messages on an employee's telephone. And the question was, is that a public record under FORA if someone were to ask for it? And the answer was, if it is an employee of the city and they are discussing public business, even if it's on their private cell phone, then that could be considered a public record. So we always caution employees to be careful about what they're texting, to do pictures of them if it's related to their job duties that are very accessible. Public record does not include records which are owned by a private person or entity and are not related to the functions, activities, programs, or operations funded by public funds. Public record also does not mean records kept by a private person. Records maintained or kept by an individual who is a member of the legislature or of the governing body of any political or taxing division of the state. So that means that if somebody made an open records request on records obtained solely by a city council member, that might not necessarily be accessible to the public, but if a member of the council is having a conversation with staff, city administrator, for example, then city administrators' records would likely be able to that conversation accessible. And then public record also does not include records that are not in existence at the time of the request. There is no responsibility to create a record when somebody puts a record request. So if they ask for some sort of data from the last 5 years, we can support data. Let's say that we didn't have it at the time, there's no duty for the city to then go create an Excel sheet to answer the question. We only have to provide as a city something that exists at the time of the request that the city would have the information. So any person can make a FORA request. There's no need to be a Basehor resident. We sometimes get a FORA request from people in different states. And we also can't ask, for the reason for the request, that's not required under the law. So the public agency can require a few things, though. The request can be required to be in writing, and we have a form on the right side of the screen that we would require someone to be in writing. It doesn't have to be that form necessarily, it just has to be in writing, but we encourage people to use the form. We can require the requester's name and address, proof of identification, and then written certification that the requester will not use names and addresses obtained from the records to solicit sales or services. Cora prohibits using names and addresses as marketing tools, except in very limited circumstances. So somebody cannot get the names and addresses of all people, utility billing, for example, in order to send them mail or try to solicit business from them. That's unlawful under law. And so cities do and can and do, just like Basehor does, require people to certify on the records request form. Okay, so the law is very specific about how to respond to a Cora request. The request must be acted upon as soon as possible, but no later than the end of the third business day following the date that the request is received. So if, for example, the city received a Cora request on a Monday, then the clock starts the following day. So Tuesday is day 1, Wednesday day 2, Thursday day 3. We need to provide one of these 3 responses by Thursday. And that is the record was very easily accessible to staff. We could provide it right within 3 days. The second option is that the request is under review and the records may be permitted to follow, and we would have to give some sort of a time frame. Your record will be available in 2 weeks, for example. Or 3, the request is denied and the reason to provide for that. There are a number of exceptions under the law that would permit closure. Very notably, people all the time ask for information from the city. Sometimes they ask for sit-down interviews with staff or city, administration. They are welcome to do that, and in many cases, they do get the information that they're looking for, but that is not required under Cora. What is required is that the record needs to be provided if it's open, but it does not require information, answering questions. So there is a presumption of openness, but I mentioned that one of the responses could be that a person cannot access or not have the record that they're looking for. And there are actually 55 exceptions under the Kansas on the Records Act for discretionary closure. So the city would not be required to provide a record that, for example, implicates personal privacy of a staff member or a member of the public. If there's communication between the 2 of them, address, phone information that are in the public, safety and security issues, criminal investigation records. If they want access to a police report, we can deny that under Cora under one of these specific exceptions. And then any internal communications between staff, while policies are being developed. So we're these are drafts that we're working on. These are notes where we are considering our next steps. That would be something. And then if there is a document that contains some material that should be redacted, then we would be required to redact that by the principal. So there might be email provided and it has to be redactions. Cities are allowed to assess fees and charges for access to records. The law states that a public agency may only recover actual costs to provide the requested records. Obviously, there's no profit being made here. It's just trying to be made whole. So costs can include staff time to retrieve, review, and redact information from a record, plus the cost of copies. And so if you have 4 or 5 different staff members that have spent a number of hours trying to retrieve records and make the redactions, that can be charged to the requester. If those fees are estimated, they can be collected up front before the person has access to the records. If it is a very voluminous request that we as staff know is going to take a lot of time to do, then we can require repayment for those records. Saying that we don't spend a lot of time trying to retrieve records that. Next slide. And then finally, Kansas Public Records Act has its own penalties as well. Similar to COMA, the single penalty can be up to $500 per violation. Training can be required, same order to cease and desist, and to comply with Cora, and then any expenses that we try to see fit. These complaints can be lodged with the local district attorney's office or directly to the police attorney general's office. Each of those entities is empowered by the statute to investigate. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions? Nope, thank you very much.
That's when you really need to listen to that.
Like talking a million miles an hour.
You're doing great.
Okay, so the last one is policy. This is not a state law. This is the governing body code of ethics. This is a self-enforcing document. It is effective when members are familiar with it and embrace its provisions. That's language that's taken directly from the policy. And there is a requirement, as I mentioned earlier, that members shall review it. So this document, as I said, was created by the council. It's self-enforcing because it was created by this governing body and to be amended, modified, even repealed. We should do that at some point. Sure. The current code of ethics was adopted in July of 2020. And the purpose, as stated in the policy, is to assure that all elected and appointed officials, while exercising their office, conduct themselves in a manner that will instill public confidence and trust in the base of government. And it applies to the mayor, city council member, and all boards, committees, and commissions. So very broadly, so elected and appointed officials. The policy lists out a number of ethical standards that are required of the governing body and our board members. And those include acting in the public interest. So it states, you all are working towards the public good and not for any personal benefit or private gain. There's a requirement to comply with the spirit and letter of the law. Practice professional and courteous conduct towards others at the meetings. That includes between each other, to staff persons and then members of the public. There's a respect for process requirement as well, which means to follow rules that this council has established for itself. So there's a process for doing things. To make decisions based upon merit with the goal in mind. That the decisions made by these bodies should be based upon substance and merit and not for a few more of those requirements include disclosure of substantive information at certain proceedings. When you all sit, for example, in certain capacities, reviewing questions where you receive communication that other members of the body don't receive, you have to disclose that. In certain procedures, it's not really like that's required, but you have to disclose it. There's also a requirement to properly address conflicts of interest and to not participate in decisions that have material financial benefit to an individual member, a personal relationship that looks optically that it could be a conflict of interest or any personal bias. There is a Kansas Government Ethics Commission that is available for questions from elected officials in Kansas, and so that is a resource that's available. It's kind of spelled out in the policy when it would be appropriate to protect that line of questions. Also, a requirement to not accept special advantages such as gifts or favors for personal gain. A requirement to maintain confidentiality. And that means, as it's spelled out in the policy, that it's prohibited to share written or verbal information that is confidential or privileged. If you learn of something in an executive session, for example, or another meeting that is confidential or privileged, city's attorney, for example, and you share that information, that could be a violation of evidence. There's also a prohibition against using public resources for private gain. So asking a staff member to help you with something in your personal or private life, using staff supplies like the printer, copy machine, pen, smaller items that are for personal gain only, that could be a violation. And then finally, avoid advocacy or endorsement during a public meeting or speak on behalf of the whole body without having really blessing. It is also prohibited to accept gifts or favors that may compromise independence of judgment or the appearance of being conflicted. So there is, a distinction when you talk about conflict of interest, something that actually is a conflict, and we believe that it is. versus optically, how does that look to the public? Could it be perceived as a potential bias or conflict of interest? And both of those are important. Could be that. Okay, B, the policy also reminds members to be mindful of the policy role of members and to avoid interference with city administrator and city staff duties and function. It really sets out the roles of people within the city. So the governing body sets the policy. The appointed officials advise the governing body, and the staff is here to there's a requirement to support a positive working environment. That means to not be disruptive to other members or to staff, especially when they're dealing with duties specific for the city. And related to that, the policy sets out a requirement to respect the chain of command and to communicate directly with the city administrator instead of city employees. So if you all have a question about city business, a certain department, anything that's happening within the city, you all have one employee, and that is the city administrator. That is who you under this policy should communicate directly and not going to any other staff person within the city. And likewise, if there's an employee that were to reach out to you to talk about something, it would be a good idea for you to let the city administrator know about that, because she oversees all of the employees in the city. So again, city council has one employee, city administrator, and the city administrator has supervisory. Okay, lastly, there is an enforcement mechanism laid out in policy. Again, self-enforcing, but it does require an acknowledgement of the code of ethics and conduct. And I believe we don't have on record signatures that are required of the policy. So I have a copy for you to review, take home, read it, and then provide it to our city clerk whenever you are finished reviewing it. So we can keep that on file. If there is ever a training that's required by local ordinance or resolution, whatever, or even state, you would be required to attend that. Duty to intervene when other members are in violation of the ethics code. If member A sees that member B is committing a violation, then member A has no obligation to train. The complaint process includes one member directly speaking with the offending member. So really this is anticipated to be private for as long as possible, but if the offense continues to occur, then or the violation continues, then a member can bring that up with all of the other prosecutors or board members. And then for other boards and commissions, the mayor may provide a written reprimand. The governing body may impose. So if there are actual sanctions to be imposed, the governing body needs to deliberate about that and decide what is appropriate, but if it's just a reprimand. Okay, that concludes the annual training. Thank you. Let me know if you have any questions and I'll pass out the ethics policy for you all.
Anybody got any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks, Maria.
very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's okay. Thank you.
No, I was shivering while I was not. It's freezing.
Freon works.
Moving on to item number 4, text amendment, Article 7 in Appendix A. Trying to keep you awake, Gene.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Crystal Both, Planning Director. Last night I took to the Planning Commission a couple of text amendments in order to just clarify
existing policy within our zoning regulations. We amended Article 7 of the zoning regulations, and in conjunction with that, Appendix A. The reason for that was Article 7 mixed use, the MU1 neighborhood mixed use zoning district clearly allows for the development of multifamily within mixed use 1 zoning district. There is language in there that says residential structures may be permitted above or below commercial structures. Obviously, that's intended to be multifamily. However, if you go over to Appendix A, where it lists out the uses that are allowed in each zoning district, it showed that it was not allowed, so we needed to clean that up. So I cleaned it up so that it is allowed in zoning district the multi-use zoning district under Appendix A. We also amended it to allow for not only vertical mixed use, meaning, commercial, residential, but also horizontal, so that you could have commercial in a mixed use zoning district to allow for more flexibility in development. And we also increased the height of structures from 45 feet to 60 feet to be more in line with other jurisdictions. And also a particular development that is right next door to us. That's essentially what we did. The Planning Commission recommended approval of that. It will come before you in January for official adoption. That's all that I have, unless you have any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Hey, thank you very much, Principal. Good job. Item number 5, adjournment of work session. I need a motion.
Yes, you.
Second.
We got a motion. Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Go outside where I can get warm.
Go outside.
Does the city provide blankets or should I have the phone?